Good morning, JGU. On the special occasion of 10th year anniversary celebrations of Original Global University, I am Nishika Jindal, along with my friends Parag Chawla and Bahar Roy, welcome you all to the commemorative leadership conclave Future of Work.
So guys, do you guys know what is future of work? Because I don't know.
Maybe robots? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think future workplace is going to be? Anyone?
Will we be still getting the job after coming off robot?
I guess not, because it's the AI generation.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
Nishika. Don't worry, Nishika. So we have eminent dignitaries who have answers to all of these questions. So I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Kapoor, Mr. Sunit Sinha, Ms. Aparna Piramal Raje, Mr. Bhavesh Sharma, and Mr. Jayant Chauhan.
So without any further ado, I would like to invite on stage Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, founding Vice Chancellor of Original Global University, for a welcome address.
Very good morning to all of you. It's indeed my proud privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you to this 10th anniversary commemorative leadership conclave, which is entitled The Future of Work. Of course, it assumes that one thing is very clear, that you need to work in that future as well. And as students, it's important for you to keep that in mind. Regardless of whatever future that is going to emerge, people are going to be expected to work harder and also probably in a more creative manner. I'm very delighted to extend a warm welcome to a number of distinguished individuals who have really made significant contributions to the world of entrepreneurship, the world of business, the world of finance, and many other related worlds. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Aparna Piramal Raji, who is an author and columnist, Mr. Rohit Kapoor, the Chief Executive Officer of New Real Estate Businesses, OYO, as many of you know, Mr. Sunit Sinha, Managing Director of Accenture Strategy, Mr. Jayant Chauhan, Chief Product Officer, PolicyBazaar.com, and Mr. Bhavesh Sharma, India Head, Better.com. I also want to extend a deep sense of appreciation to the Jindal Global Law School, including its Dean, Professor Rajesh Chakrabarti, and the Office of Career Services, Professor Asim Talukdar, and all the faculty members and staff who have contributed to, in many ways, curating this important leadership conclave. For all the students here, I think it's a very rare opportunity for you to, really firsthand hear extraordinarily inspiring stories of creation and evolution and entrepreneurship in an environment which is not necessarily easy for you to create something new. And that's a very learning experience that I'm sure you're going to enjoy today. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief. I want to say that as we celebrate our 10th anniversary, for those of you who are here, some of you might know the story, but this university is an example of an extraordinary entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and educational entrepreneurship, an opportunity to transform the lives of young people from India and around the world. And I say this at this juncture because you must know that it was a very humble beginning that we had, and that's exactly how entrepreneurs will end up having, very humble beginnings. And so in 1998, I was a student at the University of Oxford, where I was a Rhodes Scholar and pursuing my master's in law. And one day I was walking to my tutorial at All Souls College, which is one of the colleges in Oxford. And I was entering the college, and it was 2 weeks into my stay at Oxford, and I really felt so inspired. And I was thinking about, are there universities like this in India? That was a very, very, a thought process that struck me, and I was thinking, it is so good here in terms of the intellectually vibrant environment, the scholarship of teachers. Almost all the courses that we were studying were taught by people who were themselves authors of those books about which or we had read before, but I was simply being taught by them. I had a one-on-one tutorials with some of these teachers, so it was just extraordinary. The learning ecosystem was absolutely inspiring. And I asked a question, and I say this because most entrepreneurs always ask a question, right? You ask a question about the fact that is there something that you can do about a problem that you want to solve, you want to attempt to address? And so with that question didn't leave me with any answer. I completed my studies at Oxford, and then of course I got a few more fellowships to go to Harvard Law School, where I did another master's in law, and that's where I pretty much dreamt more deeply about the idea of building a university, and spent the next 10 years essentially drawing up a vision while doing other jobs, and that's also entrepreneurs do, right? Because you have a vision and a dream, but there will be a time when the dream and vision will actually come to fruition, but all those years you will be plotting mostly alone about those ideas. The next 10 years was spent, I was initially working at a corporate law firm in New York, and then doing some research at NYU, and then taught in Japan, and then for many years in Hong Kong. And much later, in the year 2006, I got to meet with an extraordinary individual who was at that time a member of parliament, a very distinguished industrialist, philanthropist by name Naveen Jindal. I met him on 30th October 2006 and spent the next 1 year persuading Mr. Jindal to do three things. One, to make a substantial financial commitment to build a world-class university. Second, to do it in a not-for-profit manner. And third, to let me have the academic freedom and autonomy and independence to build a world-class university in India. By late 2007, Mr. Jindal agreed to all of that, and he himself recognized the importance of higher education and how transformative it could be. As some of you know, he studied in the University of Texas, Dallas, did his master's in business administration, and later, of course, endured that school. And now, UTD Dallas, where he studied, which is one of the top 50 business schools in the US News ranked, it is now called the Naveen Jindal School of Management, the only a school in the US named after an Indian in India, because that deserves a round of applause. Because as you know, Mr. Ratan Tata contributed over $100 million at Cornell, where he studied, but he didn't get the name of a school. Many other Indian benefactors have contributed different types of contributions in the US and India, but they couldn't get the name of a school. But for a number of good reasons, Naveen Jindal School of Management is, of course, named after an alumnus from UTD, and that is the kind of philanthropic contribution that built this university. These 10 years have been extraordinarily important for us, and all of you in so many ways, those who have joined more recently, but those who were there at the founding have contributed to it, and we're very fortunate that we have some individuals who are there from the founding even today in this room. I recognize the presence of Professor D.K. Srivastava, who was our first Pro-Vice Chancellor, spent 2 years here at Jindal, and then of course returned back to Hong Kong and Australia where he came from. I recognize Professor Y.S.R. Murthy, our current registrar, who was also one of our founding faculty members. And there are many others who are there from those days. I mention this because of the fact that I strongly believe that education has the potential to transform societies. It's unfortunate that we in India have not recognized its fullest potential. I have elsewhere written about the fact that the making of India through building universities is much more important than Make in India. All our efforts to promote smart cities and the startup culture and all the other things that we very fervently argue about will not be possible unless and until we lay foundations for good institutions, good academic institutions that can transform society. And if you look at the growth and evolution of the United States and Western Europe, but also in more recent years from China and Singapore and Hong Kong and South Korea and Taipei, across all of Asia Pacific, including Japan, the heart of their evolution is the strength of their universities, the strength of their innovation and research and development that is taking place across STEM areas, but also in humanities and social sciences in these universities. So I only hope that as we hear the inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and business leaders today, we recognize the importance of few things. First, the power of an idea. All of you as young people, I'm sure, have ideas. ideas that can shape the future, ideas that can build societies, ideas that can transform societies, ideas that can respond to problems that we are facing today. So please believe in those ideas and work on those ideas. So power of an idea. Second, power of being global. We have to recognize that geography has become history. Today, most innovations that are being created have an impact that goes beyond the national context. And that's exactly what the story of new generational entrepreneurs have been. And it is also the story of people who have become entrepreneurs over a longer period of time. I hope you read about the story of somebody like Alibaba's Jack Ma. Now, Jack Ma, as you know, unlike Nandan Nilekani and Indian tech entrepreneurs, was not an IT engineer. He was an English language teacher. How many of you knew Jack Ma was an English language teacher? Can you raise your hand? All right. So Jack Ma, I mean, you must know Alibaba. Alibaba's evaluation a few years ago I saw was over $250 billion, and maybe it's become more. So Jack Ma was an English language teacher, but then he was a thoughtful English language teacher. While he was pursuing that, he suddenly discovered that there was very little presence of China on the internet, and that led to the birth of Alibaba in a very small apartment building in the city of Hangzhou, which is just outside Shanghai. And that, of course, led to what we saw today, what we are seeing today. So the story of entrepreneurs is also about being global in that sense today, because the world has become a much smaller place. The third is, of course, the importance of technology. More and more businesses are created not only in the bedrock of technology, but also through technological solutions that can improve efficiency, that can contribute to business development. So the third critical dimension of any entrepreneurial initiative today is technology, and technology is used more dynamically and more creatively. And it doesn't mean that each of you need to be an engineer. You need to understand the importance of technology, recognize the power of technology, and have people who are familiar with the use of technology to be brought into that business model and create that. And that's the third thing. The fourth, I think it's something very important, which I sincerely hope you will consider more seriously, is the importance of ethics and integrity in business. Business leaders increasingly have recognized the importance of ethics and integrity, the subprime mortgage crisis in the United States, but also the steady deterioration of ethics across businesses in India, but also around the world, has brought to bear the importance of ethics and integrity in the business. And I'm not even talking about corporate social responsibility and other ways by which businesses should be responsible to the society at large. I am talking about being honest and sincere in what you're doing, and to be mindful of the fact that you adhere to the laws and rules and regulations and develop a culture for the respect of the rule of law. I strongly encourage you to read a book which I've been promoting for the last several years. It's written by a Harvard-based political and moral philosopher named Michael Sandel. The title of the book is What Money Can't Buy: The Moral Limits of Markets. And Michael has argued in this book very strongly that we have moved into a society in which everything that we do is measured in monetary terms. And he, by the way, believes in the idea of markets. He's by no means a leftist. He believes in the importance of markets, but he makes an important distinction between a market economy and a market society. He believes in the idea of a market economy, but not a market society where everything that we do is measured in monetary terms. And in some ways, the consequences of a market society is twofold, as he has argued in this book, where we will increasingly move into a society where we will have institutionalized corruption and institutionalized inequalities. And that is the state of affairs of most societies, both developed and developing countries. So ethics and integrity need to be central to the idea of business. And lastly, I also strongly believe that transformation as a leadership principle need to happen taking into account the broader aspirations of society, and that is a natural extension of to what extent corporations and companies and business enterprises owe it to the larger development of society. So these 5 things, I believe, are as relevant for young entrepreneurs who are planning to create businesses as it is relevant for established business houses. In fact, young entrepreneurs are better suited to provide leadership in advancing these 5 principles. With those words, once again, I would like to congratulate the Jindal Global Business School and the Office of Career Services here at OP Jindal Global University for taking the lead in hosting the 10th anniversary commemorative leadership conclave, the future of work. And I would like to sincerely thank the distinguished individuals who represent very leading organizations of our times and business houses for them to take their precious time from their busy schedule to come and spend these moments with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful words. Can we please have the Dean of Business School, Mr. Rajesh Chakraborty, for the opening ceremony, please?
Thank you. Welcome to the speakers. And just a few words to add to what the Vice Chancellor just mentioned. As many of you here, the students of course know, but probably the speakers, the guests here do not, that at the Jindal Global Business School now we are focusing on 3 major thrust areas. And those thrust areas, which we hope to follow zealously embedded in everything that we teach and we hope to inculcate in our students, are artificial intelligence, China, and I'll speak a little bit about explaining that, and the third is innovation and entrepreneurship. And the reason why I'm telling you that today is because I think all 3 are connected very strongly with this phrase, future of work. Because I'll be very frank and candid here and say that we really don't know where the workplace is headed. The World Economic Forum has a report which ominously predicts that all the skills that we are currently hoping to teach in most of our institutions around the world will become obsolete and defunct by as early as 2022. So that's like 3-4 years down the road, everything will be different from what it was in 2018. But we understand that most predictors, forecasters have a stake in sounding alarmist. That's how predictions are usually make it to headlines. But nevertheless, if it's not 2022, by 2025, we do expect the world to be quite a bit different. And we are the last people to understand how it will be different. If we don't know exactly who knows how the world will be different, but we know one thing, that it will be different. Now, and we try to stay a little bit ahead of the curve and see that we are somewhat better clued in than others in that transformative journey. Transformation is an increasingly used word in everything that happens around us, and truly so, because the pace of change has accelerated to unprecedented levels in the last couple of decades. With the internet itself, most of the speakers today are connected to the internet world, and our focus on artificial intelligence, which we believe is possibly the next change maker, is based out of that. China is important, and I'm so happy that that the Vice Chancellor mentioned Jack Ma and Alibaba and the entrepreneurship stemming out of China. But China is particularly important and to us in India, because I cannot think of any Indian business today, new or old, which does not have China either as a part of the supply chain or as a competitor, usually both. So businesses that do not understand what's going on in China is certainly lagging behind on what's affecting their businesses in India. As a global business school, we certainly put a lot of trust on understanding business in China as part of understanding business in India. The third part, which I think hopefully will get a lot of attention from the speakers, a lot of coverage from the speakers who will of today's event, is innovation and entrepreneurship. Every business school in the world talks about entrepreneurship, and yet at the end of the day, we ourselves have very little clue about what makes an entrepreneur and far less of what makes a successful entrepreneur. And in the business literature, strategy literature, there is a time-honored practice of looking at great success stories and trying to draw inferences from that. Probably one of the most celebrated books in that genre is Jim Collins's Good to Great, which is used as a Bible or was used as a Bible till recently in many business schools. Any researcher, any PhD holder will tell you the methodology is entirely flawed, because you cannot look at winners, and that is completely strewn with survivorship bias, meaning that 100 people may have done the same things and only 2 emerge victorious, and when you look at those 3 or 4 and you identify those characteristics, you forget the other 95 who did exactly the same thing and was condemned to bite dust. And so we really don't know what makes for success in entrepreneurship. But we do know one thing, that if you don't try, you're not going to succeed. And we know that there are many ways of trying things. Some are coronated with success. Some individuals do not meet that success. We do not know the recipe that works. But that doesn't mean that we have given up on the quest for the Holy Grail. So we do invite successful entrepreneurs. We hear their stories. Many of them have not been successful at their very first attempt. There are many entrepreneurs who find success in the 3rd, 4th, or further on attempts at entrepreneurship. And but every failure that they go through in life certainly becomes a pillar of their next round of entrepreneurship, and eventually they meet success. So ideas are great, but passion, perseverance are probably even greater. Many people have ideas, very few actually put in the amount of effort. You heard the story of this institution and how much work behind that inspiration that went into driving that inspiration into the reality that we see around us today. Right? The inspiration is certainly great, but it needs to be followed up with a lot of perspiration before it gets anywhere meaningful. So we are looking forward to hearing 4, 5 fireside chats today, where we have excellent moderators, interviewers who are going to lead a discussion with these 5 speakers selected on this pretty complicated topic, future of work. Right? Nobody has a crystal ball around here. Everybody is trying to walk that path, finding out what's going on there. But we in academia, particularly in business academia, recognize the fact that while we are taking a look at businesses, we are somewhat secluded from the real action. And it is imperative for us to keep on listening to practitioners, to the actual experiencers of that journey, of the transformation journey, to stay abreast, draw our own conclusions, draw our own inferences on what's happening out there. So I must thank, therefore, the Office of Career Services, led by Professor Asim Talukdar, one of our own from JGBS, and his most able team for putting together this conference, and a lot of help from the students. Vedantam and many others have spent a lot of time organizing this. So look forward to a great 3 hours starting now from 5 inspiring fireside chats. Thank you and welcome again.